the lecture CBR, and after completing the man-made disaster, we are moving on to the next important parameter or stage of CBRN, wherein we call it as industrial chemical disaster management, or we could call it as industrial chemical disaster risk reduction. I again quotes that to manage disaster is a very, but yes, risk reduction and mitigation part is in the hand of our society. So generally we call it as industrial chemical DRR or disaster risk reduction. So for the definition part, I would like to iterate that chemical industrial disaster emergency. So I have already quoted in the heading that it is basically chemical industrial disaster emergencies. Why I have put it this heading as not as management, rather I have put it here emergencies, only because the reason is that we can mitigate the chemical industrial disaster emergencies in comparison to management. Any emergency in this field can easily be handled on a short duration. So when we go for the definition part, a chemical industrial disaster emergency is the unintentional release of one or more hazardous substances during an industrial operation. So it is very much required that in case of chemical industrial disaster, there should be an integration of industrial units, process, manufacturing, maintenance, storage, or anything like that. So it is much required that whenever we talk about the chemical industrial disaster emergencies, industrial plus chemical is required. It is not like that you only go for the industrial part and without chemical, we can go to the chemical industrial disaster part. So it is very much required that there are two parameters. One is the industrial part, second is the chemical part. And when we integrate both these things, we will conclude as CI DE or chemical industrial disaster emergencies. So I have already quoted a chemical industrial disaster emergency is an unintentional release of one or more hazardous substance. And you will focus on this particular word unintentional. Why? As per the conventions of Government of India, we are not allowed to use any chemical warfare agents or any chemicals for the warfare emergencies. There is a body called OPCW. I will elaborate it on the later lectures. OPCW is Organization for Prohibition of Chemical Warfare Agents. So we are signatory of that particular conventions, and because of the signatory, we cannot use any chemical as in warfare agent. So that's why I have quoted here unintentional. See, for example, Bhopal gas tragedy, Vizag leakage. Nothing is was intentional that somebody wants to attack our country or our infrastructure, but yes, it is an unintentional leakage of one or more hazardous substance. Gopal, you know, methyl isocyanate was there, MIC, and Vizag case, you know, the chemical was styrene. So it is not meant for intentional attack, but yes, it got into the atmosphere and then it created a big problem to the society or the community. So moving ahead, chemical disasters can be caused by emission of any chemical in any storage tank, during transportation, during process, fire, explosion, natural disasters. Again, a big thing when you go for this part. I will give you an example of a refinery known as Tupras. Tupras refinery, you can note this, and Tupras refinery is a good case wherein a major earthquake resulted to explosion of farm tanks in the chemical area. So all this thing, because of natural disaster, it triggered to the secondary disaster. So the impact of earthquake was very less, but due to the shaking over the earth and shaking of the refinery, natural disaster become quite imminent, and it created a big problem in comparison to the natural disaster. Next is the contamination of food or water supply with the chemical. We have already discussed as water pollution, all this. Oil spill, we have discussed in the last lectures. Leak from a storage unit during transportation, and deliberate release of chemicals in conflict of terrorism. We all are witnessing the Ukraine Russia war or Hamas Israel, wherein it has been heard that the use of chemical has been very pertinent. So these all things overall conclude the chemical industrial disaster emergency. You can very see in case of emission also, in case of fire, explosion, contamination, oil spill. The parameter, the magnitude is too much that if there is a oil spill, we cannot quantify that, okay, it is up to a meter, up to a feet, up to so. It goes into big boundary. That is why it causes a big problem. And because chemicals are involved and the nature of the chemicals are quite different, it generally converted into chemical industrial disaster emergencies. So moving slide, chemical industrial disasters. I've already quoted chemical catastrophes occur when one or more hazardous chemicals are emitted, catch fire, or explode during industrial operations, including handling, storage, transportation of these chemicals. So wherever we are focusing upon, we can easily understand that chemical is being used. You can see this figure. What happened in case of chemical emergency? It exploded, and unfortunately, it converted into BLEVE. Believe boiling liquid, evaporating vapor, explosion. Means boiling liquid is boiling, with evaporation is there and explosion. Additionally, such catastrophes also rise as a consequence of natural disasters. I have already quoted about the what we call as NATEC. I will discuss later on in the next lecture. NATEC, it is natural plus technological disasters. And when we talk about the enforcement part, as I have already quoted, and we are learning the disaster management, the stakeholder point is very, very much important. For example, there are certain disasters and nodal agencies have been talk about the environment part, especially for the chemicals inside the Government of India premises or to the boundary of India, we have the nodal agencies for chemical disasters is MOEF and CC. MOEF and CC. In case of defense part, it is Ministry of Defense. We have to focus upon that part. That in case of internal this thing, internal this thing, MOFCC comes to picture. In case of defense, we have MOD. So we have to focus upon all this part. Along with MOEFCC and Ministry of Defense, MHA has a big role. MOLE, Ministry of Labor and Employment, and Ministry of Petroleum, etc., are working as an explicit supportive role to Ministry of Environment Forest, which is its nodal agencies. Okay, we have to understand that when we talk about the normal chemical part, it is MOF and CC. When the chemical is being used for the terrorism testing, then the picture is of Ministry of Defense. So it is very much important to understand who is the nodal agency who will respond on the national spectrum. And similarly, down the line, the states and district, it will go one by one. The next, the susceptibility of chemical disasters in the Indian chemical sectors have been amplified due to aging of process plants, design flaws, and insufficient measures to keep up with contemporary technologies. So we all are witnessing that all the plants, units, anything has been established in India 50, 60 years back. So when we talk about the life or shell life of any material equipment, it is limited. Or we can easily say it is for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. Right now, we're witnessing that all the most of the process plants which handles hazardous chemicals are quite aged. For example, most of them are beyond the age of 30 years or 40 years. So this is one of the parameters which is very important, aging of the process plant. That generally results in the leakage or emission of chemicals from this plant. Design flaws, yes, we have developed the design thing, and it is very stringent thing. It does not change day by day. But yes, if there is certain modification or change done by the agencies or industries, it can impact for the chemical industry disasters and insufficient measures to keep up with the contemporary technologies. So when we have to increase the production, when we have to develop new technologies, or we go for the processing, there are certain measures. But yes, country like India has faced in past certain measures that is not sufficient to cope up with the contemporary technology. This is again a big thing for which triggers the chemical industry disaster. The last point is the chemical sector frequently encounters flames and explosions, with organic solvents being the predominant cause of responsible for enacting regulations. So organic solvents and all this we discussed separately, but yes, these are the parameters which we have seen which encounters the this thing. See, when we talk about the chemical industrial disaster, most of the people think that generally we go for that part wherein we have to focus upon uh, mitigation strategies, but it's not like that. We have to focus upon certain other regulations also. And when we focus upon these things, we have to go for the enacting regulations. Generally, what people think that in case of chemical industrial disasters, we have to be expert in chemistry or say chemical engineering or some mechanical engineering. It's not like that. See, when we will discuss later on about the properties, how will we understand, how will we see, how will we assess the chemicals, especially chemicals manufactured in the right, not about the warfare agents and all these things, but yes, the chemicals which have been developed, manufactured by the manufacturers, there is a term which I already quoted you, MSDS. So it will provide the properties of all the chemicals. And when we go for the MSDS, whenever manufacturer develops a MSDS, he or she takes responsibility of developing the right SOPs. So it is quite clear. But what happened when people use and they know that certain parameters are quite same? For example, there are two chemicals X and Y. Both have the same properties parameters. Generally, people thought, okay, X and Y have similar properties, so we can mix this property and we can make again X or Y. But it is not like that. Whenever we use these chemicals and mix it, at any time, it will show a different property only. So these is basically the cause responsible for, and we focus on these particular parameters. So these are the basic thing about the chemical industrial disaster which we focus upon. Now, the thought process, or the what we say, the trajectory where we have to focus is to focus upon the disaster part. So I've just quoted some examples where we can see it is again transportation disaster of a chemical. So it is very pertinent that in case of chemical industrial disasters, we have factories, and all the factories.
Sir,
Talking about the,
sorry,
yeah, tell
Kunal
me.
sir. Sir,
Yeah,
slide is not visible.
slide is not visible.
Please share the slide.
Now you can see. Now it
No,
is
sir.
there.
No, sir.
No. So I have started. You haven't seen the slides.
Yeah, but in between.
Okay. Earlier it got started now.
Yeah, yeah.
Now it is there.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So please tell me in between if I lost this thing. So we have seen this first slide. Okay, Rohit.
Yes, sir.
First slide is there. Second slide we have seen.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
This slide I was there.
Yes, sir. Yeah,
Okay.
continue. Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay. So sorry for the inconvenience. So I was quoting about the span of 81 to 85, where we are seeing that okay, number of substances, site and deaths and injuries. So we can see railways and factory, but factory is the majority. Factory where we can see, which we are talking about industrial chemical disasters which happen in the industries, and in each and every case we can see injuries are too much: 200,000, 240, 13, 43. Bhopal gas disaster is a big thing, and in each and every case, we can see deaths as well as injuries. So that is quite pertinent. Bhopal, yes, particularly have been considered as a disaster because the number of deaths or the fatal accidents was too more in comparison to the injuries part. So we can easily see, okay, these are the issues which we can already seen. So starting from, because it is very, this is my concept that we have to at least understand what we are teaching or what we are understanding should be correlated. It's not like that I am teaching something and you are not able to connect it, and any participants. So for that purpose, I have quoted some major chemical disasters wherein we can see the countries right from Colombia, India, China, France, Nigeria, Iraq, Soviet Union, Germany, United and Brazil species. Date can be varied, but number of persons killed can be easily seen: 2,700, 2,500, 1,500, 1,000, 1,700, 600, and up to 600. You can very easily see that the impacted communities too much in case of any major chemical disasters. The figure is, maybe just take an example of say Nigeria explosion 1998, 1,000 people are affected. 1,000 people is not, it's 1,000 plus the families of the affected person. So you can imagine this figure is not 1,000. In my perception, it is more than 5,000 because the dependent people are too much in case of any disasters. That is why it is much important. The mitigation strategies are too less in case of any major chemical industrial disasters. Very less. We don't have the too much antidotes right now. Also, if we go and see in the market, if there is some unknown chemical, it is very tough to mitigate or to help it out community which is having more than 100 population in their vicinity. Yes, we can tackle 10, 15, 100, whatever. But when we go for the mass part, it is very tough for us. That's why I will give an example. So for your understanding part, I just give an example of 1953 New York, US. Okay. It is a Love Canal, a small town in the state of New York near Niagara Falls, was destroyed by the waste of chemical plants beginning in 1947. Chemical companies could legally dump their waste products into the canal. In 1950s, families began to settle in the area without being told about the waste and health problem it might cause. So the case scenario is very clear. 47 companies legally dumped, and in 50s, people living to started there. The area developed a foul smell, trees lost their bark, and leaves fell throughout the year. In 1970s, scientists found that the drinking water contained excessive level of 82 industrial chemicals, seven of which cause cancer. So, what I want to teach you here, or you can complete the slide. The people of Lebanon had an unusually high rate of cancer birth defects, and by 1990s, the town had been cleaned up enough for the families to begin moving back to the area. So the figure is from 1947 to 1990. The figure is very small, 47 to 1990. What happened? Entire community is being affected due to the chemicals which have been dumped in the beginning of 1947. So we can easily see what happened in case of small this New York 53 Love Canal, wherein people intentionally or maybe unintentionally done something. But when we talk about the country like India, which is developing and population, one of the world largest population in the world, we don't know the sites. And as I've already quoted you, it's India is a very big chemical manufacturing unit or handling or storage unit. We have more than 6-7 lakhs chemicals in India. So we can easily understand the effect if comes into picture in case of chemical industry disaster. And the figure you have already quoted, say Colombia explosion, Bhopal gas tragedy, France, Nigeria explosion, Soviet Union explosion, anywhere you go for, the figure is very high, and you can easily correlate why we have to focus upon special disasters for chemical industrial disaster or industrial chemical disaster. It's not about industrial mechanical disaster or say building collapse and all this thing. But yes, government has fixed forced to made separate study or separate framework for industrial chemical disasters. Second, you all know Bhopal gas tragedy. No need to say how many people are affected. Methyl isocyanate got leaked, and you can easily say the gas formed a cloud that killed 2,500 people immediately, and another 50,000 to 1 lakh become ill. It is a very common thing that we know when this type of chemical comes into the ambient environment, it is very, very tough to stop the impact of this particular chemicals. The explosion was caused due to mechanical failure that was not noticed in the time to stop it. That is why I was started in my slide that it is basically industrial chemical disasters risk reduction, or we can call it as disaster emergencies, which is related to chemical part. If somebody was quite aware and taught and trained, then it could easily stop that Bhopal gas disasters. After Bhopal only, then the concept of MSISC rules 1989 comes into picture, which talks about the manufacture and storage import of hazardous chemicals. In 1989 it came to picture, and government has to make regulations that what how to stop or mitigate certain type of disasters or leakage when it affects a complete community or rather complete city. We all know the pain because we are Indians and we know Bhopal gas disaster took place in our country only. Next is Exxon Valdez oil spill. It took place in March 1989 in Alaska, US. In this case, 11.2 million gallons of crude oil spilled into Prince William Sound from the tanker when it hull hit a reef and tore open. The spill, which cost billions of dollars to clean up, killed millions of birds, fish, and other wildlife caused by human error and could have been avoided. The overall spectrum or overall thought process behind showing you all these slides is that for any major disaster, say for Bhopal, world oil spill, the error was basically the human error, or we haven't followed the SOP, which resulted into a big, big disaster mechanism. So it is very much required or pertinent that we should understand. I would just give you an example, small example which I encountered during my work in disaster management field. We just got a news from some city nearby in Delhi NCR where somebody called us as an authority that there are 10 odd people got fainted in a nearby a pond nearby district which is 100 kilometers away from Delhi. So in the first perception was that we have asked these people, okay, is there any chemical industry in that area? So nobody told us, well, no, there is no chemical industry in that particular area. Then we asked, then what was the reason? There is some transportation chemical took place. Well, no, there is no chemical being transported. It is an isolated location where only sugar production is there, and hardly there are 3 4 sugar industries are there which don't have so much hazardous chemical per se. If you talk about the hazardous chemical part schedules, then it's a very big tough situation for us that we are not able to anticipate what could be the chemical, how the people got funded, because 10 people in a isolated village which is having only sugar industries, very tough to ascertain that okay what happened actually in the ground. So no issues. Again, we as a disaster professional, we ask the people over there what is the scenario, what all things are nearby. Somebody told, okay, there is a sugarcane industry, sugarcane industry plus nearby there is a pond. So you can just imagine if this is a pond and the sugar industry is nearby this vicinity. So what these people were doing, they are throwing the molasses. They are throwing the molasses into this pond. So molasses, you can easily see after the crushing of the sugarcane, the waste material is being thrown out or being used as a bagasse to heat. But in this case, whatever is the reason, they are throwing these molasses to this pond. Pond was having around 10 feet of water, and after 3 to 4 months of time, this molasses got reaction with the environmental conditions and formed the methane, CH4, methane. So because the inhalation of the methane, these 10 odd people got fainted and they had to take the medical emergency comes into picture. So only again, if you see in this particular case study, if the people whosoever using the sugarcane had disposed the material properly, it could not have resulted in a methane, and ultimately 10 people would not be got fainted. Okay, they are lucky enough that we encountered the situations in a quite efficiently and in a timely manner, so we are able to save the life of these 10 people. But you just think about the propagation into a density, you will not able to identify, say, 10 odd peoples in DMRC got fainted due to any reason. It is very tough for any authority to ascertain what would be the exact reason, and exact reason basically a chemical. So that is why it's only small scale. But if it got leaked like Vizag, Visakhapatnam, where saline got leaked in the entire city, entire vicinity of Visakhapatnam. So these are the things which small things being converted into a major emergencies ultimately results in disaster. So the only thing which I want to communicate is the human error, which can be mitigated, and if mitigated in time, it is very easy to mitigate this type of chemical related risks. Again, one more Jilin chemical plant explosion, China. Now, November 2005, a series of explosions in a petrochemical plant killed 6 people, injured 70, and forced 10,000 residents to evacuate. The explosion reached at least 200 meters in diameter and caused 80 kilometers of severe pollution in Shonga River. The major pollutants were benzene, nitrobenzene, which are linked to leukemia, were recorded levels over 100 times national safety standards. Water supplies were shut off in the affected area, making it necessary to bring water from other nearby resources. So, small leakage, small explosion results in a crisis of water, which we are quoting earlier how two or more things are interrelated. Explosion in a chemical plant, benzene, nitrobenzene into the river. And what happened? Ultimately, a new disease, leukemia, came into the picture, and complete community got affected. So all these things should be taken into consideration when you talk about the chemical disaster part. Okay, okay, this is also this thing. Next, Gulf of Mexico oil spill, deep water horizon, a semi-submersible drilling rig sank on April 20 explosion on the vessel. 11 people died in the blast when the rig sank. The riser, the 5,000-foot long pipe that connects the wellhead to the rig, became detached and began leaking. Again, as much as 5,000 barrels or 22 lakh gallons of oil per day were leaking into the water, threatening wildlife along with Louisiana coast. So these are things which we can see that, okay, small leakage and this figure is there. What happened? Complete system got vanished, aquatic life finished, and ultimately the impact is on the environment. So what happened about the environment? Environment got contaminated, number of aquatic life got finished, stopped. So all these things came into the picture, and results is a chemical industrial disaster. Wherein again I am telling you, chemical is involved. Industry should be there, maybe in any form, manufacturing, transportation, storage. All these things are there only. Now you will ask certain questions about the Indian part. So I have also tried to write some case studies for industrial chemical accidents in India. So Ramki's CATP solvents building in former city Vizag, July 13, 2020. In this case also it's a very small thing, but yes, for our knowledge it is much required. What happened? A massive fire broke out in a chemical factory in Visakhapatnam, Andhra Pradesh in a night. Several people got injured in the mishap. Ramki CATV solvents building in former city blew up due to reasons yet to be disclosed. The explosion soon turned into a massive fire, which was clearly visited across the city. At least 12 fire tenders were deployed. One person died, four seriously injured. This is the recent scenario, because this is the scenario which I would believe type of thing is there, where liquid start evap liquid stop evaporating and expanding also. Next is आपकी Navally NST Light Lignite Corporations, Kuddalore district, Tamil Nadu. The incident claimed the lives of 6 men, leaving 70 others injured when a boiler exploded at a thermal power plant in Tamil Nadu. The mishap took around 9:45 a.m. of the thermal power plant after a fire broke out. Workers at the time were busy in maintenance activities for resuming operations, a company statement said. So you can easily understand, again, maintenance was going on and industry got fire. During the maintenance also, there are procedures of Lotto and all these things. We have our friends from industry side also. They know very proper mechanism of maintenance part, how to shut down the industry, what to shut down, how to take clearance, and how to restart this thing. But yes, again, human error is there in this case also, where which can be stopped and the accident can be mitigated. Oil's natural gas wildfire Bagjan, Assam, June 9, 2020. Again, here a natural gas well owned by Oil India Limited turned into an inferno in a Bagjan next to Dibru Saikwala National Park. The well had continuously spewing out gas or undergoing a blowout since May 27 in
Hello,
Tinsukia
sir.
district. Five people, yeah,
So
tell
PPT
me
is not moving. Slides.
again.
Yeah, example of accident of falling the release of toxic substance. This slide is now showing.
This slide now showing it. Okay, this we have seen now.
Example of accident.
Okay,
I think.
I think we will start on this slide. This slide we have seen. So you can this you all have seen this slide.
Example of accidents following the release of toxic substance. Year, place, substance, site, deaths, injuries.
This you have seen.
No, sir. Please uh, take 1 minute, sir.
The last
Okay,
slide is
Stop
example.
share. Stop sharing.
stop sharing. Okay,
And reshare now.
now it's okay.
Move the slide. No, it's not
No,
moving.
it's not.
Not working again.
Yeah, yeah. Major
Yeah,
next
next
major chemical disaster.
major chemical disaster.
Now it is working.
Yeah, yeah, sir. Okay.
Yeah, sir. Okay.
So I was here on this slide, industrial chemical accidents in India, where I was talking something about Ramki CTP solvents, Pharmacity Vizag. Then I was talking about Navali NSC Lignite Corporation, where in both the cases, if certain parameters like human efficiency was there or the error was not present, then we could easily stop this type of incidents. Then I was on this oil's natural gas well fire of Assam, where the well had continuously spewing out gas and undergoing a blowout since May 27th in Sikkim district. In this case, five people died due to the gas leak in the area. The company had also appointed an environmental consultant to assess the impact of the blowout. Oil assured that it would provide immediate financial relief to over 1,600 families affected. So whenever there is such type of incidents wherein chemical is related, again oil is a type of chemical only. So the impact is too much. Only five people died, but yes, the impact on the societal communities over 1,600 families affected. If you clearly count that, okay, they are having only four people in a family, you can easily assess 64 odd hundred people got affected in a leakage. And took time also, resources also being spent, and the loss of the economy or the chemical was also pertained to particular this place. Next was Yashasvi Rasayan Boiler Explosion, Dahej, Gujarat. It took place on January 3, 2020. Eight workers, besides 50 others, were injured on June 3, 2020, in a massive fire triggered by a blast of the boiler of a chemical factory in Dahej. See, the what I want to tell you from this particular studies are that yes, boiler of a chemical factory got exploded, but the impact is that explosion hazard is not very much impact the community, but the chemical inside the boiler is a big thing. So again, it's a chemical factory. There is a boiler in Gujarat, and what happened? Complete system got impacted. Authorities shifted about 40 and 800 people from nearby villages to safer places. 230 workers were present in the factory located in Dahej at the time of incident. So these are things which we can see only for the example part. You can easily quote and see what happened in the history of China, but impact on the community or the society is too hard. It is very tough to mitigate these sort of disasters. If you see this figure also, it is basically a black smoke, which is very tough if somebody inhales. It will choke your lungs. It will make you in big problem if this type of material comes down with to any community. See, if you talk about this community, if there is some village over there, as I have quoted here, Luwara and Lakhigam villages. You can see the odd communities over there, maybe around 10,000 people. Everybody got affected due to these chemicals in the plant. Next, a big case study for all of us. LG Polymers gas leak Visakhapatnam took place in May 7, 2020, wherein styrene got leaked. So incident again claimed 11 lives and more than 1,000 people sick due to gas leakage. Over 350 were admitted to the hospitals after toxic styrene monomer gas leaked in the chemical plant. So anxiety takes suo motu and all these things were there, but I only want to communicate the impact that taking the citation of these examples and all these examples took place in the cities which comes into the jurisdiction of our country, India. We are having chemicals starting from Assam to Gujarat to Visakhapatnam to Chhattisgarh, Shakti paper mills, where you can easily say 7 workers fell ill, 3 of them seriously after inhaling poisonous gas at a paper mill in Chhattisgarh, Rajgaj district. So it took place where the victims were cleaning a recycling chamber on the same evening. What happened in case of chemical industries or this type of industries that each and every past few years, so say past few months also, then also it is very tough for people like us or you whosoever focus on all this that how to use this thing. There is an SOP how to use these materials, what about the compatible or incompatible chemicals, but impact is very much there as we have a multi-stakeholder group. So I will not go into the chemistry part much inside. Yeah, I will tell you, but yes, as a layman, as a first responder, we have to understand the impact of situation. What is the impact? How we are going to face this? What is the impact on the community, society? If we are there as a responder, how will we focus? How will this thing propagate and go? So all these things are there. But you see the vicinity of India, Chhattisgarh, Visakhapatnam, Gujarat, nowhere we are there. Okay, understanding the case studies, we will focusly upon few. So if we talk about the chemical part, we can bifurcate as very high task toxics, which is basically chlorine, sulfur dioxide, ammonia, phosgene. I will not uh, go in detail about n number of chemicals, and yeah, if I will try to share the documents for you all that you can understand which are chemicals are there. But on a smaller note, we can easily understand. हेलो, ऐसे क्यों हो रहा है बार बार? तो वहीं से रुका हुआ है अभी, उसमें आ रहा है, वेबएक्स पे आ रहा है, आप कंफर्म करेंगे? अभी मैं हूँ स्लाइड नंबर रिस्क ग्रुपिंग में। रिस्क ग्रुपिंग आ रहा है क्या? आपको दिख रहा है 9 June 2020 है ना? तो शेयर तो ऐसे ही कर रहा हूँ, दोबारा शेयर करूँ क्या इसको? एक तो ट्राई करता हूँ आप फोन पे। ये वाईफाई पे तो कनेक्टेड है। अभी आ रहा है? नेक्स्ट हुआ? अब ठीक है? ओके, आगे भी श्योर है ना? ठीक है, हो सकता है मैंने पूरी विंडो शेयर की होगी शायद। ठीक है, ठीक है, बाकी इस पे वेबएक्स पे चेक कर लेना है ना? ठीक है, सॉरी फॉर द इंटरप्शन. Actually, I think the slide was not moving in the YouTube part, but yes, on WebEx it was showing to me that is moving. That's what that was to see this. Okay, so We were talking about the risk grouping. So we can easily group the chemicals into three more important parts. First was mainly dangerous to health. Second, main dangers, fire and explosion. And third would be both health, fire, explosion dangers. For example, if I say there is a particular chemical which is affecting the community, it's not creating problem to environment. So this could be one group. Next, we will say, okay, it is not providing any problem to the environment, but yes, the health of the workers are too much because they are being exposed to this thing. So we have tried to enlist certain chemicals. For example, talking about the very high risk, we have chlorine, sulfur dioxide, ammonia, phosgene, which has mainly dangerous to health. When we talk about propane, butane, acetylene, is comes to category of major dangers for fire and explosion. And talking about hydrogen cyanide, which you all have heard, both health and fire or explosion dangers. Again, for high risk, we have phenol, HCl, nitric acid, sulfuric acid, radioactive substance. And talking about the acetone, methyl ketone, carbon dioxide, thinner, etc., which is in our system, it is main dangers fire explosion. Methanol, styrene, butyl estates, both health, fire explosion dangers. Similarly, for moderate risks, there are certain chemicals, trichloroethylene, chlorothalene, toluene, xylene, petroleum distillates, and corrosive, etc., which have main dangers of finance. Only for the this part, I will try to share you some list of chemicals which you can bifurcate as per your requirement. See, as we have learned about the Sendai framework, I suppose you all are very clear for the terms of Sendai framework. There are four priorities of Sendai framework. The first priority is basically understanding disaster risk. So you can add a small word in that, understanding local disaster risk. Again, I quote in my lectures that disaster is a state subject, or it is correlated to the place where we all are sitting or we are settling. For example, I'm sitting in Delhi NCR. There is the risk of ice is very low. The risk of tsunami is negligible. So I will not prepare any SOP or any guidelines for the this part for the tsunami or the say snowfall and all these things. But yes, if I'm sitting in Kashmir or I'm sitting in Uttarakhand, say Himachal Pradesh, I will definitely prepare the plan for snowfall. And if I sitting in, I am residing in a coast guard, especially West Coast, I will definitely prepare a plan for tsunami this thing. So that is why I am giving you this particular priority, understanding local disasters. So whatever chemicals you all are utilizing, I'm not right now. We are not focusing upon the warfare agents. For example, somebody is attacking, but yes, if we say 100 chemicals we are using in our city, or 1,000 chemicals we are using in our city, we have to prepare SOPs for that particular chemicals which is inside our city. It is called risk grouping so that we can easily understand which chemicals have main dangers to health, which chemicals can explode, which can chemicals can cause fire. It is not always that each and every chemical will explode only and it will cause fire. You have seen the color coding, and I will also take a lecture on the color coding part or the numbering system, which can easily tell us how to understand the chemical without knowing the name or nature of the chemicals. Only the properties we will understand. Okay, this is hazardous group 1, 2, 3, 4, or 0, whatever is the group. So only for example part. This is grouping and you can easily done. Now the general remarks on the chemical substances. Again, I'm quoting. We will become expert in the coming time. But for the general listing, we will start one by one. If you see the dangerous classification, you can see we have tried to inculcate that very toxic chemicals can be very toxic, highly corrosive, injurious to health, irritant, moderately injurious to health, dangerous to environment. So if we go for these part, that chemical could be very toxic, or it is toxic, it is corrosive, it is irritant, we can easily make plan to mitigate or plan to minimize the impact of these chemicals. It is very, very required. Yeah, we have to classify the danger. It is not that the chemical is moderately injurious to health and we prepare the SOP for very toxic. This is a tough thing. Or it is only an irritant. We know the time shelf life. Okay, after this time it will be handled very easily, or if we provide some water curtain and all this, it could be done very easily. So it is this type of thing which have to understand. So we can make the SOP for this particular segment. So, in the modern community of the chemicals industry is a precondition of our present standard of living. Very true that we are preconditioned. We cannot live without the chemical. Right now, starting and the toothpaste we use to the night, we use what we can say mosquito repeller in our houses. Everything is chemical. You can just imagine, and in your house only, you will start with the toothpaste to the what we use as a mosquito repellents, all the things. Large quantities of chemicals are being transported by road, rail, sea, and air. We cannot mitigate, but the handling of but handling of chemicals also involves a risk, which I am quoting. I will quote these examples because whatever you are using right now, have some impact, but up to which extent is questionable, and we can mitigate if we are using in proper way. So many of these chemicals may, in an accident or during transport, can cause serious injuries to man, damage to environment. If chemicals mixed by mistake, toxic gases form and are disseminated. Very much important for you all people as in first responder or trainer or students of CBR in course. It is much important that how much, what is the impact, what is the potential, what can be the consequence. This is very much important. So I just give an example with the instantaneous release of 50 tons of chlorine in a densely populated area in summer from railway trucks where the whole content leaks out at once. The following casualty can be assumed. So I can, if you can see, instantaneous release means in one instant, it got released 50 tons. Example point, densely populated area and in summer from railway tank trucks where whole contents leak out at once. You can very easily visualize that what I am trying to teach, I am trying to quote over here. So what will happen? 300 to 500, 400 immediate deaths, 400 casualty requires immediate respiratory care, 2000 casualties require immediate hospital care for breathing difficulties, and 2000 casualties requiring hospital observations for at least 2 days. You can just calculate the figure. It is odd 5000 rough figure of number of victims. Only what 50 tons of chlorine that is regularly passing through any of the train containers in any city anywhere in India, because every most of the states leave northeast and some states of high altitude areas, but most of the cities wherein industries are there, we can find chlorine in a very easy manner. It is very much utilized chemical inside the industry. So only a leakage of 50 tons of chlorine in a summer in a densely populated area can impact directly for 5,000 people, or we can say the injury potential is approx 5,000 in a vicinity. And I'm not quoting that there are 1 lakh people or 10 lakh people, yes, but if this 50 tons of chlorine get leaks in a densely populated area, the impact will be around 5,000 people at one go. You can easily say the immediate deaths, the requirement of respiratory care 400, breathing 2,000, and
Sir,
hospitalization of 2,000. So, yeah.
slide. Please share the slide.
Now it is there, or again I have to share.
No, sir. Not visible now. Hello.
Is it visible now?
No, sir.
No, no, sir.
Don't know. It's technically sure what, because I'm trying to share from this place. I Now it is there.
Yes, sir.
Everybody can see.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Sorry for the. I think there is a technical issue, a glitch. I don't know, but I think I was audible enough to. You can all can hear me.
Yeah.
Rohit,
Yes, sir. We can hear.
might be the slide was not there, but I think I am audible to all of you.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I was discussing upon about the injury potential, where I was quoting some examples of say 50 tons of chlorine got leaked in a populated area, and what will be the impact or what will be the injury potential. You can easily see a rough figure of around 300 to 400 immediate deaths, casualties requiring immediate respiratory care is around 400, 2000 casualties required immediate hospital care for breathing difficulties, and 2000 casualties requiring hospital observation. The odd figure is around 5000 in an community got impacted due to a chemical accident or incident. Only just got lead, but the community is too much, and the figure is very high for any responders to get into the picture. So the issues with injury due to chemicals, even a fairly small accident can involve problem in view of the risk of disseminations of the dangerous substance and the complex casualty picture. In addition, there are often initial difficulties in obtaining a clear appreciations of the scope of the damage, which makes directions of the operation difficult. Why I am quoting all these things? You just focus upon the clear appreciation of the scope of the damage. The parameters are too different. For example, what we have seen in the last slide, it was a summer region. So summer region, the wind velocity would be high, the atmosphere is quite clear, and all these parameters comes. If the environment is hazy or foggy, so then again there is a big another type of issue. So clear appreciation of the scope of damage is very tough in the initial phase of chemical leakage incident or accident. So it is very much difficult for operation part ki how to handle, where is the downwind, where is the impact, what is the conversion of this thing, diffusion impact, and all these things. Sometimes it is even unclear that what substances involved and how dangerous these are, individually or in combination. Should there be a fire, it is even more difficult to assess the risk of injury and the size of risk area. So in early, you can see the impact of eyes. Anything can happen in our eyes due to chemical exposure. So all these are things are there. Picture is very very tough. Complex casualty picture. We cannot ascertain what actually we are fighting with. There are few new threats for chemical part which we have come in picture. For first is sabotage. It is basically terrorism activity using chemical weapons on any large scale, and has so far occurred only on two major occasions, that is Matsumoto and Tokyo. Failed attempts have been made on more than 12 occasions. Possessions has been discovered on 9 occasions and failed use twice. Chemical weapons can be produced with relatively simple chemicals technology, which is becoming more and more widely known. Chemicals and equipments for manufacturers are readily accessible, and for this reason, we cannot exclude an increased use of such substances in connection with terrorism, and we should therefore review our preparedness for such a situation. Terrorist operations with chemical substances, which may have devastating consequences, can be ruled out either in Sweden or during peace promoting or humanitarian efforts in other countries. Given that chemical weapons have been used once, they are presumably no longer exist, and the same inhibitions about using them again. This must taken into account in peacetime disaster preparedness. And the second part is very much evident is dumping, which is more effect than the sabotage part. Sabotage part, yes, we can encounter with the proper inputs of the intelligence agencies, but the dumping part is very much tough. I have already given example of the sugarcane molasses and bagasse dumping in the open environment in the pond. Similarly, this problem is very pertinent. A growing problem in the chemicals and chemical weapons, chiefly mustard gas dumped in the sea. Following the Second World War, there was extensive dumping of chemical weapons in both the Baltic and Kattegat, both of mustard and nerve gases. Fishermen fishing in the area around the dumping sites have caught up ammunition containing mustard gas and pure mustard gas that has leaked from damaged containers in their nets. This often, relatively often in the Baltic, but also 22 occurred on several occasions in fisheries off the west coast of Sweden. The mustard gas that is brought up today is active as it 50 years ago. This is a big concern that mustard gas, if found in our vicinity, it is quite active. It is not that after 50 or 20 years it has left the properties. Its property remains the same, and if it is anywhere in our environment, it will create the same problem that it would create 50 years back. There are no known substances in which nerve gas has been brought to surface. It is thus impossible to say that certainty that what activity it retains, but if a nerve gas container were to break on board a fishing boat, it would probably lead to poisoning. I'm just giving you example, and we will discuss it on the chemical warfare agents part. But dumping part is very very evident, and if something is dumped in an open environment or say water this thing, the properties will remain the same for some cases. Some cases it will be diluted, but again it has been diluted in the water zones only, so it is tough for any responders to handle it. Special features and requirement in a chemical accidents. The general same principle apply. It is not that we requires very special this thing, but yes, same general principles that apply to accidents with traumatically injured persons apply to the acute case of casualty in accidents involving chemical substances. However, an accident involving chemicals have certain special features that must be considered in planning. Those features that apply to chemical weapon during state of alert must be observed. First property is the risk area. Within a risk area, a toxic substance can be present within a larger or a smaller risk area for a shorter or a longer time. So risk area is very much important. Risk area may not be entered without special protective equipment or ordered by incident commander of rescue services. So the zoning is very much important. If this is the zone and we have three particular parameters, and this is the zone, it is very tough for anybody to enter the zone. Nobody will be allowed, and if allowed, with the help of proper EV, proper PP. So risk area is very much required, where we have to focus upon. Medical staff arriving on the scene of an accident where there has been a release of chemicals must strictly follow the instructions given by the incident commander regarding what area it is safe to enter without complete protective equipment. See, we have some equipments and technologies where we can ascertain that okay, this is the downwind and where the chemicals are being leaked, but not in case of confined space where we cannot say that okay, how many chemicals, what is the exposure of chemicals in the particular zone. So in that case, it is very much important that incident commander plays a big role. And talking about the district part, whenever there is a chemical leakage, the officers of Department of Industrial Safety and Health, DISH, comes into the pictures, and these are the people who are response for devising the strategy, or they have on-site plan, off-site plan of the district. So they can tell us which is the zone where you can enter, what are the antidotes, where we can get the safe, say, help from outside. Ambulance and medical staff and medical teams must be equipped with proper PP for the event that may be exposed to the chemical or chemical weapon through, for example, a change of wind direction in the vicinity of area, or when they assess the contamination. So it is very much required that the change of wind direction type of properties is also being taken to care depending on the risk area. For example, downwind is this type. In initial this thing, when the people entered, it has gone to this direction. So generally people thought okay, the direction is this only, and we are safe in this particular this zone. But during the time of entrance or the rescue part, the wind direction has been changed. So all these things are a very big concern which you have to focus upon. Medical staff should not normally work within the risk area. Again, this is the SOP, or when you go for the IRS incident response system lecture, you will ask this why medical staff are not allowed, and what is the role of doctors, what is the role of paramedics. Everybody has been separate roles in case of chemical disaster risk management. The hospital or the route of hospital may lie within the risk area, and this may make it impossible for a longer or a shorter time to transport casualties to the hospital. The casualty assembly point may then need to be used for considerable time. In the case of chemical weapon attack, the risk area may be of entirely different dimensions. It may extend up to 15 kilometers. For example, chlorine, if utilized or used as industrial chemical, it has lesser impact or risk area. But same chlorine, if it is be used as a weapon of chemical warfare, then the impact is up to 15 kilometers. So this is this thing. It is therefore not possible to cordon off such a risk area in the normal meaning of the word, and restrictions will then be on the roadblock type of controlled by the police. Within this area, a high protective level is critically required since it is impossible to determine the dissemination of gas and liquid. See, whatever we are learning, I know it is a new topic to few of you, but we all are interrelated. Certain parameters which we have to fix upon this thing is that the properties of the chemical which changes depending on the environmental conditions also. For example, I am putting the water part. If there are certain chemicals or phosphate which is not affine with the water, then what happen, it will release toxic fumes if got contacted with the water. So it is not always advisable that you to use water to stop chemical propagation or this thing. We have to focus on some other parameters also which will help us out and understanding the nature of the chemicals. Monitoring equipment is an aid of establishing and delimiting uncontaminated areas, which can be used. For example, in radiation, you have seen the dosimeter part, which you have been definitely taught. In dosimeter, what we say, the exposure quantity. So it is very easy for us to understand, okay, this much is the exposure, and we are safe up to this level, and we are not safe after certain level. So this is the risk area type of thing. Second is decontamination. While caring of the casualties exposed to a chemical, the rescue staff may be exposed to the toxic substances if the injured person is not decontaminated. Removal of contaminated clothing, cleansing with soap and water, all this comes into a decon procedure. Casualties must be decontaminated as early as possible within the accident scene but outside the risk area. The rescue services are responsible for decontaminations within the accident scene, but if there are medical requirements, with the help of medical staff. Medical transport vehicles may become contaminated and unserviceable for a long time if contaminated persons are transported in them. Large area of hospitals may also become unserviceable for the same reason. See, because it is very pertinent issue that if certain victim or certain person is contaminated by a chemical which can transfer effects to other person also. In certain reasons, it happens to the entire vicinity. A certain victim comes into the picture and it is being contaminated, there is a risk that any other person can be witness the same problem. Then the issue is very pertinent in that case. In healthcare facilities, it must be possible to perform decontamination before the patient is admitted. This applies particularly to persons spontaneously seeking care. It is not that you can provide this decon procedure to each and everybody, but yes, what we advise that the persons whosoever is entering the zone, at least he should be decontaminated so that it will not affect to any it will not transfer the effect of chemicals to some other persons. In the care of injured contaminated people exposed to a chemical weapon in liquid form, there is a risk that rescue staff are exposed to toxic substance directly sensing. Here the first care given as a rule involves immediate decontamination with an absorbent dry decontamination powder. Dry decontamination, I have already quoted this name as Fuller's dust. Generally we use this type of material to decon the persons whosoever is involved in the rescue part. The injured person is removed from the risk area on a stretcher to a decon station situated in a liquid or gas-free area for complete decontamination. Third is uniform casualty profile and standardization treatment. Uniform casualty profile and standardized treatment. The casualty profile in an incident with toxic substance is the same for all casualties, but with different degrees of severity. Here are two parameters which we focus upon: toxic substance casualty profile. Whosoever is inhaling or absorbing due to any route of entry of the toxic substance, the casualty profile depends on degree of severity. Depends ki how severe is the chemical or toxic substance. Both the classification of injuries and treatment can then largely be standardized. If we are able to triage again, you use my term. We have to identify or bifurcate which is more injurious, which is more toxic. Then we can easily say or say standardize the equations. Third, next part is knocked out hospital. Knocked out hospital, the hospital or the route from the accident scene to the hospital may lie in the risk area, which can render in the impossible to transport casualties to the hospital for a period. What I want to communicate from this particular knocked out hospital is that you have assigned certain place or hospital. This is a hospital where I will treat any person whosoever is exposed to chemicals. But what we are noticing in the actual situation that the downstream or the downwind is going inside the hospital only, and the place where I have to take rescuers or casualties for treatment, again it is being knocked out, or say it is in it is not in the conditions where it can treat people. In this circumstance, it may be necessary to use the casualty as assembly point for a considered time. So this is again a big scenario for the chemical testing that you have to focus upon this part also. It is not like that your hospital is being victimized and you are not able to treat people over there. Observation units following exposures, maybe through inhalation has been exposure to certain chemicals. The development of serious symptoms may be delayed for periods of hours to days. For this reason, observation units are required for people who are apparently affected but whose conditions may suddenly worsen. What I was quoting as triage part, if we got and you will get a session from the doctors, you will be able to understand triage part, how to understand which requires immediate effect, which requires delayed effect, which requires no effect, and which we cannot save life. So we have to focus upon all these things: observation, hospital room, and home. Who requires keep hospitals? General first aid is required, and who requires complete ICU this thing. This is this for the observation units. Then information in an accident involving chemicals, there is a great need of for information in many different groups. to enable people to protect themselves in the right ways and casualties to be cared in the right way. If you have the proper information and you know, okay, if 2 glass of water is sufficient for this type of exposure, it's okay. And certain case you require 2 bottles of saline or all these things, it is also required. So it is very easy for the medical practitioners to solve the problem in case of exposure. Inventory, again, it is affected in two parts: risk inventory or resource inventory. Risk inventory is an inventory should be drawn up of the risk present at the workplace, transport, in the hospital catchment area. That means you have to focus upon the area. Again, disaster is a state subject, so we have to focus upon that particular. Not only in case of resource inventory, an inventory should also be made of the resource available at the hospital, medical care center, in the region of meetings, the requirement of medical care that an accident involving chemicals or terrorist attacks or attack with the chemical weapons can entail. This must be included in the acute hospitals and medical care disaster management plan. That means you cannot say that you are safe. We have seen the example of Hamas, wherein a hospital was being targeted, maybe by Hamas, maybe by Israel. We never know what is the actual condition. But yes, the hospital who has to treat people over there got victimized, and the resource is not present there. It falls into the risk inventory part. Information part, in general, if a large chemical accident with the public may be affected, it is important to issue information rapidly in the initial phase regarding what happened, what we call as golden golden hour response. In golden hour means we have the enough time, or in industry generally we quote as 40 minutes. In 40 minutes, if we are able to provide proper rescue, proper facility to the victims, we can easily mitigate this thing. There are certain terminologies which we use, but in disaster, we called as golden hour, 1 hour response. If we are able to provide the response in 1 hour, we can easily mitigate 90% of the community to fall in the trap or to fall in the victimized zone. The information given to the public and to the rescue centers and the health and medical services should be coordinated. It's not like that you are telling public to go downwind. Public is going to the some shelter which is in the confined space. The incident commander has overall responsibility for the dissemination of the information to the public, mass media, etc., regarding the circumstances of an accident, and information can cover warnings and direct guidance regarding measures necessary to prevent or alleviate the consequences. See, in case of chemical disasters, it is very pertinent that you know the properties of chemical until unless it is being used as a warfare agent. It is not certain type of chemical which is being banned and is not used in your country. If you know the name of the chemical, yes, we can. There could be an impact, but we can mitigate the disaster in a very easy manner. Same case in the Bhopal gas disaster. If we know MICs got leaked and what people had to do, they don't have to run very fast. They don't have to inhale amount of MIC. It could be very easily handled. But yes, people was not there. Public was not aware. Everybody starts running and they inhaled more and more MIC in their body, ultimately resulting in the poisoning and lung infections. To gain the attention of the public in threatening emergency situations requiring rapid information in some built-up areas, it is possible to use siren signal, important announcement to the public. The purpose of the signal is to warn people and have to take shelter and listen to the radio for information danger. You have wherein you can see right now due to primary level themselves seek information from the authorities. Whatever what example I'm giving you about the grade. To meet this need at local level, the municipal information service should be used. Dissemination of information concerning the health conditions of casualties and the medical care situation, etc., in the accident scene is the responsibility of the senior medical officer, while dissemination of information in other aspects should be handled according to the guidelines drawn up by the medical care principal. See, again, there is a catch in this particular thing. Whenever an accident took place and chemical got leaked, the first responder or the say deputy incident commander is basically the officials from Department of Industrial Safety Health. Once the situation has been taken and casualties have been admitted to the hospitals, it is again the responsibility of the district, municipal, or medical officials to take the situation. They have mitigated the situation. They have transferred the casualties to the medical part. Now they have to recover. In this case, the CMO, Chief Medical Officer of district, become the deputy district commander, and he will take care the next care of the patients or victims. Medical care. All the medical staff who may work within the accident scene should be familiarized with the regulations and marking systems issued by the transport of hazardous substance or whatever is there. They should be aware of the disaster medical treatment and decon principles. All emergency hospitals, medical care centers MSDS regarding chemicals handled in the factories within the health facility catchment area should be available. These MSDS and hazardous substance cards should be rapidly transmissible to the hospitals via telefax or equivalent from the medical service alarm centers, the rescue service, the poison information center, etc. Whatever is the type of chemical, if we have the MSDS, we know what is the antidote, how to mitigate, what we have to do, what is the lethal dose, what is the lethal concentration, etc. It should be possible to receive telefax message. What I'm quoting is SMS or whatever there directly to emergency departments at all emergency hospitals. Generally, what happens if you are able to provide, as in first responders, the nature or name of the chemical, it is very easy for the medical professionals to tackle. If it is a poison, they will give the antidotes of the poison. If they say it's a corrosive material, it is some reactive material, it is very easy for us to understand the nature of the victim and we can easily tackle the situation. Certain chemicals which with special
स्लाइड नहीं शेयर हो रहा है.
again, okay. Now it is
Yes,
visible.
sir. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So there are certain chemicals, only a list of chemicals I have already quoted, right from acids to vinyl chloride. These are the chemicals for which special treatment instructions have been issued. When HBNI will share you, just go and write down nitrites MSDS. For example, you can write nitrobenzene MSDS. So in this particular system, you will say the instructions is basically special treatment. This is not a very normal type of symptomatic treatment that's been done in these type of things. They required a special type of treatment, phosgene, phosphorus, vinyl nitrites. It is not a common type of strategy doctors follow. Now, prevention of incidents. Chemical incidents can do and happen. Preventing them is the top priority of safety-related programs with potential dangerous plants. Industry, national, regional, and local public authorities, the public, and other stakeholders are the stakeholders. It is not like that industry is only responsible. Industry, national, legal, local public authorities, public, other stakeholders, etc., including business, labor unions, communities, international organizations, academic institutions. See, for example, when we talk about the disaster part, nobody only is responsible for the emergency and everybody is responsible. Somebody people say, okay, industry is earning from these chemicals, so they have to respond. It's not like that. Whenever there is a leakage or incident or emergency to do the chemical, everybody has come into picture because it requires friends and we are the victim. So we have to seriously focus on that. It is crucial to correct the reports of chemical incident and share the lessons learned in order to stay enhance safety over time. If the lessons are shared effectively, everyone involved Japan. Same Japan, and we have seen the example of Nepal. In a day or two, the earthquake of above 7 comes regularly. So these people tackle these Japanese know very well to tackle, but the same 7.2 if earthquake comes into Japan in Nepal, you can see the response time. So it depends on the community that they are efficiently trained or not. But yes, if they are trained, they can easily able to prevent mutual mishaps. Organizational management at all levels is responsible for ensuring the safe operations of hazardous facilities and creating the infrastructure to do so. GHS, yes, it's a big topic, and I will take in later on that GHS is there. GHS still slide is not visible. Everybody can see the slide.
No, sir.
Awesome.
Oh, there you go. क्या हो रहा है आज ये? Now,
Yes, visible.
okay. Sorry. Sorry, GHS, yes, it is a system, what we call as globally harmonized system of classification and label chemicals of the United Nations. It is very much important to understand this topic, and I will take it on a bigger side also, because GHS is this type of mechanism wherein somebody is using a chemical sitting in Brazil and he has to market and use the product of that particular chemical in India. So it should be on the same tone. It's not like that you are developing a chemical with another properties, and this in India we are developing the properties, chemical of other properties. It should be of the same alignment. That is why UN has brought this system of globally harmonized system of classification of chemical, so that a person sitting in Brazil can also see, and person sitting in India can also ascertain that what is required. Every worker should do their part to ensure safe workplace by doing their duties in a cautious manner and pledging their co-workers to the same and providing input into creation and implementation of safety procedures and policies. Why I am putting safety procedures? Why? Because I was started the lecture with that the industries plus chemicals results in industrial chemical disasters. So if we are utilizing the safety policies, implementing the same on the ground, we can easily mitigate the disasters at the inception point only. If we are able to stop that at the inception, it is we the as a responders a lot important. Not just any problem, but anytime it can come to picture. Members of all be able to communicate effectively to their colleagues, superiors about safety and risk issues. Risk communication should take into account the fact that groups of people in an organization may have various objectives and that different disciplines may use different terminologies when discussing safety and risk issues. Means should be made available to assist firms and with limited resources that need support, assistance, sensitive safety programs, and a multifaceted approach with the range of entities and programs may be necessary to in order to satisfy possible concerns and limits of firms that could need help or assistance. Now, after this thing, we go for the safety strategy. Public authorities or government bodies should establish a long-term strategy for reducing the risk of chemical accidents and for limiting the adverse consequence of accidents that do occur. The strategy should include a clear and appropriate objectives, what they want to do. If they are utilizing a chemical and it is much important for the society, then also we have to focus upon that thing. Rohit, still we are not able to see.
I think there is a network issue
Yes, the network issue.
Network issue.
because in between you have
Because in
come out.
between, yeah.
Now it is because I'm now can you see
Yes.
visible?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So the important parameters that public authorities should have clear, the study should have clear and approved objectives, be part of a good governance strategies, demonstrate and understand risk related to geographic, economic, industry development, highlight the need of coordination, cooperation amongst public authorities, always across the national authorities, establish rules, responsibilities, and expectations of all stakeholders. So preventions of chemical accidents is a big thing which we have to focus upon. Principle to industry. Industry have primary responsibility for chemical accident prevention, and that safety should be inherent component of all phases of enterprise from design, constructions, operation, decommissioning, and closure demolition. In addition, that to addressing the functions of management, it also includes law dealing with the role of labor or workers wherein corporate governance and process safety management. Corporate governance involves relationship between a company's management, its boards, shareholders, stakeholders. Generally, what happens in India, country like India, we focus upon the monitoring, big money as much as possible, but it is not like that. Safety is a very inherent part, and we have to focus on that part. If we compromise the safety or the safety due to chemical, it is very tough to cope up the situation. Corporate governance also provides the structure through which the objectives of organizations are specified and the means of accomplishing those objectives and measuring performance are determined. Major objective of process hazard safety management of highly hazardous chemical. Analysis of historical incidents suggests that inadequate leadership, poor organizational culture, and lack of safety management have been repeated elements, with a failure to notice things were out of control, generally owing to a lack of competency at different levels of institutions. A failure to manage process safety properly and take the necessary actions, an absence of an inadequate information on which to base strategic judgments, particularly their view and evaluation of safety management systems, and an ability to appreciate the full repercussions of changes, including the organizational ones. These are the major objectives for process safety management. Again, we have to understand that PSM is very much important, process safety management, because the entire effect of chemical hazards lies between this process safety. If we are able to go for the safe process, then it is very easy for us to handle high hazardous chemicals. So all these things are very much important. Lack of competency, manage process safety properly, an absence of inadequate information. All these things counter and counters. Inability to appreciate the full repercussion of changes, including organizational ones. Generally, what we do in our system or in any part of the world, that we focus on this. We cannot say we will change everything. We focus upon the intermediate part, that how to utilize the resources and go for the management part only. Now, critical components to obtaining high standards of corporate governance and safety management. First, understand the weakness and dangers. It is very much important regarding any chemical or chemical disaster permit. Stakeholders should recognize the hazards and risk installations. They should know the importance of process safety throughout the life cycle. It is not that they are focusing upon the storage part or the say transportation part, but it is very much required that for production, storage, logistics, company at every instant we have to focus upon the safety part. We have to understand the crucial and diverse level of protections that are in place between a hazard and an accident and aim to improve those layers consistently. Ensure educate and consistent management methods for analyzing, prioritizing, and managing the risk, including good management of change of process for people, technology, and facilities, and personally immerse them in risk analyzing the process safety impact of any plant, budget reductions, and production at the expense of process safety risk. If you are able to do all this process at the inception phase only, then all these things can be easily mitigated. So we have to understand the weakness and dangers involving the use of chemicals in our plant. Take responsibilities for emergency prepared, know the hazards and risks at installations, ensure that organizations analyze audit and assessment results, monitor site and corporate level process safety key performance indicators, and near misses also. It is very important that we don't leave these near misses with thought that okay, small component of chemical leaked and we stop this thing. It's not like that. Actively exchange experiences and learning within their own organizations and among other high hazard sectors and ensure an appropriate high quality follow up. Stakeholders in high hazards, there are some questions which we have to ask ourselves. Do you know that what the top accidents risk are your organizations? Do you know what are main vulnerabilities area? What are you doing about them? How concerned you about the level of risk? How confident that you all have safety systems are performing good? Do you seek out the bad news as well as good? If there is an incident, who do you blame, others or yourself? Are you doing all you can do to prevent major accident? These all questions we have to ask on ourselves. It's not like that we laid down the situation to certain stakeholders. Okay, this man should be fired because he haven't responded. We have to focus upon all these things, and this is our personal responsibility at any level, that we have to question these things to us and answer the same wholeheartedly. Error tolerance, again, very important characteristics. Along with safety culture for chemical industrial disaster restorations, a safety culture should develop the capacity of employees to effectively perform their duties and not to be focused on assessing blame or punishing errors. The safety culture should encourage an atmosphere of cooperation and openness in which employees feel comfortable about discussing error and near misses. What happened in case operators, etc., in the plants, they know very well there is certain leakage. But if they say that it is by being fault or not, it is not, it is because of their fault, they will not tell you. But in the long time, it will be converted into big disaster type of thing. So, an error tolerant culture nevertheless requires appropriate responsibility and accountability. The seniors or the management, the authority should take cognizance and accept, okay, there is some error, but we are there to sort all these errors. To promote safety cultures, employees should be provided with opportunities to participate in development and review procedures. Ensure employees know their roles and responsibilities and have necessary competency. Management should take appropriate actions to ensure that employees are aware of their roles and responsibilities and have necessary skills, education, training, and support to assume their roles and responsibilities. Apply the safety culture in case of affiliated operations when an enterprise has investment in but not operational control over other enterprise operating hazardous installations. The enterprise making the investment should consider where appropriate entering the contractual arrangement to assist in the establishment and maintenance of safety standard. Generally, what happened that if somebody has subletted a unit to you, they will tell every responsibility of handling this chemical lies on you. We have given you the contract. Now you focus upon that. They are not considering the lives of the community or the impact of the community. Again, what I want to tell you on this that the main stakeholder or the main investor should take cognizance of all this parameter. Okay, it's a dangerous operation, and how to handle is the responsibility of you and me also, and we have to sort these situations and at every steps. Develop and maintain safety policy. Safety policy is a written statement, and it should have fundamental goals for accident prevention, preparedness, response, including the elements of safety management system. Incorporate safety objectives with the zero incident goal. Incorporate an essential elements that the goal that all accidents are preventable. If we are able to think this preventable part, we can easily understand what we want to deliver. Again, there are addressed measures to assess and improve safety culture, be the top of the hierarchy of documentation, agreed, promulgated, and applied throughout the enterprise, reviewed regularly and amended as appropriate after the hazard mapping or risk mapping. We can always change. Clear and there should be clear and visible management interest in safety performance to personal involvement in safety matters. Good communication, positive feedback, quick response, financial and career incentives, participation of employees, timely investigations, involve employees involved in developing, reviewing, amending safety policy. Management should consult with and involve employees at all levels to mitigate the disasters or the impact of disaster in the first go. The last part is communicate the safety policy. Management should focus on this part that they have maintain safety management systems. It is being disseminated to all the levels. The selection of the line of defense at all levels of the organization should be there. Whereas we have to also aware the community for the risk associated with the presence of hazardous substance or chemicals inside your premises. So with this, I have concluded, and I hope with certain this thing you are able to see the slides. So I will directly come to the question answer. If somebody wants to ask some questions, they can easily ask me questions. I think it was a long session when due to some difficulties in the internet, I was not able to share screen. But whatever you want to ask, you can ask me. And in the chat box also. Rohit, are you there? Rohit?
Sir.
Rohit, yeah, are you
Yes,
there?
sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm not able to chat box. If there's some question chat box, you can just tell me.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I don't think I am seeing any questions over there. So anybody wants to any question, they can mail to us at HBNI, and we will give the answers to the questions with these people. I hope you have understood something which I want to tell you about the chemical industry disaster management. The next class will be on 8/11/2023. Then we will discuss the next parameters. So with this, I will thank you everybody for listening me. Thank you
No
very much.
questions.
No
No
questions.
questions.
No questions.
No
Okay.
questions.
Okay. So thank you again to everybody for listening to the lecture, and we will meet again on 8 November, 3 o'clock. Thank you very much.
Welcome, sir.
यस क्या हुआ नेट में समझ नहीं आया मुझे बड़ा
तो
बात
तो
होता
सही
है
रहता सर
हाँ हाँ मुझे समझ नहीं आया कैसे कैसे ये हो गया ये